I want to take a moment right now to invite you to just stop. Put down the thinking. Take a deep breath. Feel into the body. And come in contact with the actuality of what is here in this moment. Don't put any labels on it. There is nothing here that you can name. A name is just another thought. Thoughts have no real substance. They have some limited utility in daily functioning. But when we're discussing awakening, when we're discussing what's really here, you can let them all simply go. What is here right now? Don't name it. Don't grasp at it. If your mind immediately jumps to any conclusions, come back to a raw sensation. It might be the raw sensation of your butt on a chair. It could be the raw sensation of your feet on the ground, a feeling in the torso, pressure behind your eyes. It could be the raw sensation of the visual field, just the colors and the shapes that are being seen, full stop. You're not seeing objects. You're not seeing a world that you believe it to be. So drop it. Get in contact with the raw sensation of the sounds appearing. Just sound sensation. They're not actual objects making the sounds. Can you tell that the sounds aren't actually coming from something outside of you? An object does not make a sound. Sounds appear in the same space where everything else appears. Come back to just the present awareness. What is here? What is here when you can't label it? What is here when your mind cannot grasp a meaning or a function of what it is seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, or feeling? Don't move. If everything stops and you suddenly feel dormant, on pause, quiet, unsure how to proceed, that's perfect. You cannot create anything without constructing an entire universe. And once you have constructed an entire universe, you have put yourself somewhere within it. And if you are somewhere to be found, suffering will soon follow. Don't allow yourself to be created. Who can follow that injunction? Who has the choice whether to create a self or a universe? In this raw appearance of all five sense fields, where is the one who could possibly create a universe? And how would they go about fabricating themselves? It's like a grain of sand fashioning itself into an entire mountain range. How is this possible? Let go of any conceptualizations. How can you move without creating complications? Can you move? Is moving happening? Don't worry about clinging on to this or any other experience. Drop the intensity of seeking, the intensity of struggle, the intensity of trying to escape from a situation that is inescapable. Where you are this second, and only this second, is unchangeable. Relax. It's okay. Wanting things to be different than they are in this moment creates another whole world, a world of mind stuff, alternate dimensions where things are just slightly different than they are right here. And when you compare the two, you put yourself in that new dimension and you live it out as though it were real. And then complain that this dimension is not like that one. Stop, set it down, and come back to whatever raw sensation is the strongest right now. There is no place to get to. There is no moment that is better than this moment. It's not resignation. It's acceptance of actuality. It's not to say that the experience won't change at some point. There are constantly new experiences, new sensations. But if they are not in your direct experience right this instant, then they do not exist, and they are solely a product of your imagination. It is crucial to distinguish the difference between what is imagination and what is the actuality of this moment. Because this moment and its actual inhabitants are the closest things to real that you can ever experience. At first, they are largely filtered by our expectations, by what we expect them to be, what we want them to be, or don't want them to be, and how they refer to and reinforce a sense of me who's in the center of it all. But as each filter falls away, you can start to see more and more clearly the direct expression of each sense faculty. And in those direct experiences of those sense faculties, there is nothing else. There is no meaning. There is no you. There is no continuity. There is nothing to be pushed away or pulled towards. There is nothing to do any pushing or pulling. There is no separation between any of it. Separation lies purely in the imagination. Allow the imagination to rest and see what is here in its most raw, unfiltered state. When we say to be present, be aware, be in the moment, it's not because it's more morally righteous to do so. It's because this is the only experience that you can possibly have that is not solely a product of the mind. And yet, how can you experience anything outside of the mind? What is it that knows, recognizes, sees, hears, tastes, smells, or feels any of it? Are we sharing the same external reality? Or do we each live through our own individual, unique variations of this similar and yet indefinable, unreachable, untouchable, unfathomable actuality that lies outside of the sense organs? Drop any thoughts about this. If you feel a feeling of unease, anxiety, fear, nausea, distress, you must be thinking. Relax. Come directly to the sensations, either those felt in the body or the visual field or the auditory field. Something which can ground the attention away from the realm of thought. And if you feel stable, if you feel calm, if it feels okay to, then notice even those fields, the trees blowing in the wind outside the window, the bird sound, the feeling of your bottom on the seat and your feet on the floor, the tension in your back, the feeling of sensations behind the eyes in the center of the head. Is any of that happening in the external world? How could that possibly not be happening solely in the mind? Are you experiencing something out there? Or are you experiencing it right here? Don't create a concept about it. Don't create a belief or a belief against what you're hearing. Simply investigate your direct experience. Is there anything that you can see, hear, taste, smell, or feel that is in the external reality? Is there anything that is not being known by whatever it is that we call mind? And can that mind be found? So where is everything really appearing? Just relax and allow experience to be all there is. An experience of a thought is still a thought, but if there's any identification with them, it pulls you up out of the moment into that creation. Let's come back to sensation. Where is this sensation truly happening? It's not out there. A wall does not create the visual image of itself. A passing car does not create the sound that you believe it does. We are not talking about anything that you can judge, that you can learn, or believe you know. Simply investigate what is here right now. Allowing everything to be just as it is. Is there anything that isn't this? Is there anything that isn't already present? Is there anything that isn't perfect exactly as it is appearing, has a perfect appearance? Any sensation is the perfect experience of that sensation. It takes judgment and criticism, and it takes comparison of this sensation to those imaginary other dimensional sensations that aren't currently in your experience. Drop it all. Is there anything that is not this? There's no need to speak about any of it. Just bask in the radiance of everything appearing and appearing and appearing. Does there have to be anything different? Is there any implication of a witness or an agent in anything that's appearing? Is there any indication that there's identification even with the raw awareness that sensations simply are arising? You let every bit of identification, if it still feels like a possibility, rest. You can't find identification in a raw sensation. If identification is available, you must be thinking. If it's not explicit thought, but a quiet undercurrent, constantly moving, just become aware of it. And that alone helps to remove its power to create this feeling of identification. Everything is just open. It's self-illuminated. There's no creating force. There are no thoughts about a creating force. If there is a creating force, it can't be known in the direct experience. So let it all go. There's no self, but there's no way to know that there's no self without thought. In direct experience, there is no concept of a self anywhere to be found. In direct experience, self or no self is a moot point, completely irrelevant. No self is simply an antidote to the belief of self. Self is an antidote to the belief in no self. Both are traps. Drop the entire edifice and simply be here with what is unknowable, ungraspable, unfathomable, and completely without concept. How could you not be open? What does that even mean? There's neither openness nor closeness. There is simply this. And this cannot be described. This is the only experience you have ever had. Don't step away from it. How could you step away from it? You can't help but remain here, even when you're in frantic movement. It's only not known or not recognized because there are thoughts that are distracting attention and creating secondary experiences, which are still happening in this same space. But they don't feel like this. Is that a problem? Are you still striving for an experience? Getting hooked into one experience is not better than getting hooked into a different experience. Experience is experience. From this perspective, samsara and nirvana are exactly the same. The whole prospect simply ceases to matter. The edifice that has been created simply dissolves because it's nothing but a concept maintaining a structure. From this place, everything is permitted. Nothing is true. Thank you.